We are live here. It's week 6. I'm with Stix. I'm with Ghost. Ghost has been on vacay for the past 2 weeks and did not even get a tan. I don't know how this kid does it, but I guess that's the definition of a ghost here. It's week 6, man. We're gonna crush this slate. I got so many bets up on using the prop model, talking to Stix, talking to David, talking to Ghost, talking to all the guys. A lot of props I'm loving, but Stix, man, your Bears. Your Bears are looking good, I guess. They're playing T-Law. They should look good. Cole Kmet, 2 early touchdowns, I believe. Caleb Williams, man, how do you feel about this dude?
Well, I'm not a Bears fan, but I did start Caleb over CJ Stroud in a season-long league, so I'm happy about that decision. But yeah, Cole Kmet, if you don't have him in the morning showdown, you're probably not making any money. And yeah, I'm excited for the three of us today. DJ could not make it today. I believe him and his family were doing a tour of Vanderbilt, trying to get their daughter set up for a very good college now that Alabama's off the table. Just kind of following that winning trend of the Vanderbilt Commodores. So he will not be here today, but week 6, I'll bring up his article too, so we could talk about some of his plays as well. But yeah, I'm excited. Bears got an early lead. I did bet the Bears, so I guess maybe that's a good thing too.
We got a lot of bets going. Stix, how do you want to do this today, man? You've been leading. I'm filling in for David. You want to go game by game, position by position, Ghost thoughts here? How do you want to break this thing down?
Go position by position. We'll do our usual thing, starting with quarterbacks, talk about GPP versus cash, and that's it.
I don't think Ricky's on this play today, is he?
So let's get right to it, Stix. There's this guy. I don't know what you nicknamed him, whatever you want to call this dude. But Spencer Rattler, let's get the snake out of the cage. Look.
It's Carolina Rattlesnake.
He's 4K. He's 4K. He's priced lower than Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is 4.8. Spencer Rattler, one of the best matchups on the board, too, going against a weak secondary in Tampa Bay. Stix, you want to talk about this dude, man? 4K, are you playing him in cash? Are you locking him in for GPP? He opens up whatever you want. If you pair him with Bucky Irving, how it means, Dave was talking about it on the Sirius show last night. You pretty much get whatever you want. You go cheap tight end, maybe a Cade Otton, whatever it is out there, Zach Ertz. How do you not play Rattler in some of your main lineups? He's in all my main lineups right now at 4K. Can't really go wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like DJ said it best yesterday on the radio show. Like, this happens once every 3 years. I don't think we need a ton out of Spencer Rattler to pay off value. Like, obviously, you're 4K. Like, even if he has 20 pass attempts, let's say they just completely change the offense, which I don't think will happen. I think that it's very controlled under Kubiak. The offense outside of Cesar Ruiz is pretty healthy. Like, everybody's there. And the thing I like about him is the confidence. Like, I don't think he has any fear, which sure, he can turn the ball over a lot. He did it a lot in college, but Tampa Bay is one of the weaker secondaries in the NFL. Play a ton of zone. I think that this is a great spot for Chris Olave. Just kind of abuse him inside the gaps of the cover 3 that we'll see a ton of from the Bucs. But I think really the only issue is, like, if you're playing him in tournaments, what you get from the savings, is that enough to keep up with a ceiling game from, let's just say, Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels? And I have a hard time answering that question. I think this guy's ownership is going to be closer to 15 to 20% instead of, like, a lot of the projections I'm seeing say sub 10%. I just don't see that happening. He is 4K. I'm not going to play him in cash just because, like, there are a lot of values out there that we could talk about as we get other positions. I feel like most cash game lineups got to start with Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels or potentially Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has like a passing prop of almost 300 yards. So keep note of that. I think we talked about that last week. Why we love Lamar so much is, like, kind of following the sports betting market when his player prop for passing was the highest we've seen all season. So that's basically, like, the way to summarize is, do you think that how you get different by using Rattler, can you keep up with a ceiling game from Lamar or Jaden Daniels? I think the answer is no, but I don't think it's that far off. I do think Rattler's going to chuck the ball a little bit. He'll, I got him projected, I think, for 14, 15 rush yards. If he gets over 20, like, that's 2 points right there. That'll help. But he's 4K. Simple as that.
Yeah, for me, look, I'm playing a bunch of lineups. It's Rattler or Dak for me. Ghost, I know you're a Cowboys fan. So I don't think you really can go wrong with Rattler. I'm just going to say you can build a great lineup with it. I'm not fearful of Jaden Daniels on this slate. I think the Ravens figure him out. Maybe not shut him down, but figure him out. And I do think Lamar Jackson has the upside, but I just don't see a shootout. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see a shootout with the Commanders. Ghost, your thoughts on quarterback? And I think it's a great spot for Dak if you don't want to go down to Rattler.
Yeah, the main thing with the Cowboys offense, we kind of caught a glimpse of it, especially last week, but over the last couple of weeks, is that this is Rico Dowdle's backfield, right? And if you're anticipating Detroit getting up early and often in this one, Dak's thrown 45 times today. Like we spoke about that 1 week Stix where all three of our GBP quarterbacks and the main one was Jared Goff when you called me saying, "Oh man, I think there's something wrong with our numbers. Like there's no way the Lions are averaging this many pass attempts through." I think it was 2 weeks. I believe it was week 2 when all three, me, you, and DJ were talking up Jared Goff and he threw the ball 55 times. Like that could be the game that we're looking at for Dak Prescott today, right?
Yep.
So for me to be able to fade other games, returning back to that point about Spencer Rattler, I just have trouble getting there in tournaments, not because of the price. It's really attractive, the build that you get in terms of starting with a 4K quarterback and then running it back with Bucky Irving or even Chris Godwin at 6.9K on DraftKings. Like it's really easy to stack that game. My problem is that I don't want to stack that game. The whole point of playing Spencer Rattler is that I want all the skilled position players, the Allen-Ra St. Browns, the CD Lambs, the Terry McLaurins, the Zay Flowers of these potential shootout games, right? So that's the thing with if you're playing Rattler in tournaments, for me, the whole point is that maybe you play him with Olave. Everybody knows that I have a bone to pick with Chris Olave, so I will not be playing him. So you all should, because that means that he's going to go for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns today.
I'll take that.
But like I do like the matchup for Olave today, which it takes a lot for me to say that because everybody knows that I never play that guy. But the main thing with Rattler, I love college football and I watch just as much, if not more, college football than I do NFL. Spencer Rattler got his job taken by Caleb Williams. Like he was no slouch in college. He was arguably the top quarterback prospect in the entire nation, right? People, when this guy got into college, people were saying, "Okay, he's going to redshirt year 1, and then he's going first overall in the draft when he's there," right? Like he was that dude. And when Caleb Williams came in and took his job, like it kind of sent him down round by round by round. And then, like the biggest thing with Rattler that they were always saying was that 2 things were wrong with his game. Number one being, and it's not even a bad thing when it comes strictly to fantasy football. The first thing was that he has tunnel vision for his number 1 wideout, right? Like that's what they were saying is that he struggles with his progressions through his reads and letting a play develop. Chris Olave will get quadruple teamed and he'll still find a way to force that ball in, right? So is he going to get picked off today? I would assume at least once. I mean, it's a rookie quarterback that came into camp thinking that he was going to take this job from Derek Carr, right? So I mean, the upside is there. Chris Olave is getting double-digit targets today, man, and Stix is going to talk about that defensive scheme for Tampa Bay. It sets up really well for Olave. So getting there in tournaments, I'm not opposed. It's just the lineup construction when you end up starting with Rattler, Olave, running it back with Bucky and or Chris Godwin. I'm not getting enough from the Baltimore-Washington games and the Detroit Dallas games where I don't really see upside there.
Yeah, with me, Ghost, I agree with a lot of what you said. My vantage point right now is running him naked. Run that 4K naked. And if Olave goes off, Shaheed goes off, whoever it is, maybe he rushes in for a touchdown. But I do like Dak as well. I think Dak's the best pivot off it. I think he throws for a bunch. I got a ton of Cowboys receivers props. I think that game is the game you want to get in. And Stix, I know you got your playbook out. Other quarterbacks you're looking at right now, I know you like Dak, kind of in that mid-range on DraftKings, but are you on anybody else? Is it Lamar Jackson the go-to guy if you're paying up for? Are you on Daniels at all? Anybody else in that mid-range?
I don't think I really have much, if any, of Lamar Jackson. I think that this is really a good spot for Derrick Henry. And for Lamar Jackson, I feel like his pass catchers are so cheap. If you're really interested, you can maybe just get one-off exposure there. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be playing catch-up. like we saw with Joe Burrow last week. Like Baltimore is scoring at will over the past couple of weeks, so I'd rather have Jaden Daniels in the negative game script there, especially without a healthy running back. Like I know we got Eckler and McNichols, but those guys can't take a massive workload on the ground game. So I'd rather have Jaden Daniels there. Not really interested in anybody else other than Dak. Maybe like I won't talk you off. Justin Fields, 5,800 is a good price for the rushing floor that we have there. I just worry about that game's ability to go back and forth. It sounds like Jacoby Myers is going to be out too. So really no one healthy on Las Vegas, and it's Aiden O'Connell on the other side. We swore we'd never talk about him again. I don't know how. You're the one that got me back interested in.
Not for DFS. It's just bet him, bro. Don't play him in DFS.
Oh, no,
you don't have to mention his name.
My second GPP lineup is with Deshaun Watson. I do think if there's any week.
Ghost, I allowed it, bro. I allowed it. I bet his
I said never again. And I said everybody in the chat, everybody that listens to the podcast.
It's Javonte Williams all over again, man. I swear, like it was
Javonte had 16 points last week.
No, it was last year. Whenever it was, I had to talk you off Javonte Williams for like 8 weeks in a row, and now here we are. I just got back from vacation, and we're talking about Deshaun Watson, man.
Yeah,
like, let me ask you a question.
Every good quitting story needs that one relapse. I'm going back for Deshaun Watson one more time.
Ghost, let me ask you, would you prefer to play Will Levis, Justin Fields, or Deshaun Watson?
I think I'd rather withdraw from the contest if those are my only 3 quarterback options.
But like, you gotta make one choice.
At this point, I'll go run over to like I don't know if you could not play a quarterback on owner's box, but like at that point, I think I'd rather go play over there if I could not roster a quarterback. Like that's just atrocious.
Make a pick. Pick one of those guys.
Will Levis
versus
Will Levis, I guess. Gotta go. Will. But then again, he puts mayo in his coffee, and like I don't know. Will Levis, I guess. Will Levis, but there's 2 guys in the mid range. That's why, like for me, there's no point in going that low. Like if you're going that low, just play Spencer Rattler. But everyone's on the Dallas side of the game, and I am too. So it's I definitely can't fault anybody. Like my main lineup is gonna have Dak in it. And he's going to be my cash quarterback too. So I'm all in on the Cowboys. We'll revisit that next week when we'll see how that goes. But on the flip side of that game, like Jared Goff is just as enticing, right? Like if you're anticipating a shootout there where Dallas has never had a problem putting points up on the board, right? Like they've had, I don't even want to say a revolving door of wide receivers, but it's been many, many years now where Dallas has never had a problem walking into anybody's situation and they can put up 35 points. So for me to be able to say that everyone's ignoring the Detroit side of the football, Jared Goff is really enticing. And Baker Mayfield quietly, depending on your league settings, probably the QB1, if not a top 3 QB in fantasy football right now. If people are expecting Spencer Rattler to go in there and hold his own, nobody's talking about Baker Mayfield. Everyone knows about the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore story. So Mike Evans is going to be hyped for this game. Chris Godwin's an absolute PPR machine, as he has been over the years. No Rashad White. If you're expecting the Saints to be in this game, how could you not like Baker Mayfield sitting there at 6,500 on DraftKings? Very easy to stack that game if you want to, especially if you're playing the early only slate where you're avoiding this Detroit-Dallas situation, and the one and only game that you pretty much have to worry about at that point is Washington and Baltimore. Baker Mayfield, especially at least on the early only slate, has to be considered, man.
I like those points. I'll throw out one name that I just kind of popped in my head, man, and didn't mention him last night on Sirius. Didn't really think about him at all. But if we can take recency bias into effect here, Cousins at 6,200. Like everybody's loading up on London. And I know David liked Darnell Mooney. Me and Stix kind of feel like Kyle Pitts can get there when nobody likes him actually after he had his first good game in the NFL. Cousins versus this matchup looks kind of elite, and they don't really want to run Bijan too much. Bijan is super popular. A pivot off Bijan could be just a simple stack with Kirk Cousins. You're not going to get any rushing upside, but if he throws for 303 touchdowns, it wouldn't be out of the question. I can see that happening. Stix, anybody else you want to add before we slide over to running back? Or if I'm just picking 2 lineups, I'm going Rattler and Dak, but these mid-range guys could come into play. Stix, anybody else you want to mention?
No. If the weather was better in Green Bay, I'd have interest in Kyler and Jordan Love, but it looks like it's going to be pretty sketchy. So it's Rattler, Dak, and Jaden Daniels for me.
Let's
And
go
then
over.
obviously, I'm going to relapse with Deshaun. But.
Yeah, 5%. Like Julian, I told him last night in chat, like if I'm making 150 to have like 3 to 7 lineups of Deshaun Watson to Amari Cooper, go right ahead. I do see. I'm not playing Jalen Hurts. We can mention him, but I like the Saquon side of that. So let's slide over to running back, man. You got Barkley up top. Nobody talking about him. Remember, he's really good at football. I think he's a good pivot off some of these chalkier, cheaper running backs. If I got the money, I'm paying up for Barkley or Derrick Henry. Everybody's going to be playing Bijan Robinson. Nobody's going to be playing Alvin Kamara. I like Gibbs over Montgomery, but, they both can get there. $7,000 for Gibbs, $6,500 for Montgomery. I think if you're stacking the game shootout, either one could work, man. But I'll slide to Barkley and Henry up top. Gibbs in that mid-range. I think Josh Jacobs kind of sneaky. Everybody's on Tony Pollard for value and Bucky Irvin for value. If we're pulling up our model that Stix puts a lot of time into, he still's got Bijan as a top value running back, Austin Eckler number 2. Then it's Pollard and Irving. I think your safer cash builds are Pollard and Irving. Just getting that value and locking it up. And if you're going with Rattler, Bucky Irvin's probably the first guy in. And I'm shocked, same way Stick said it. I don't know how Spencer Rattler is still coming up in optimizers under 10%, but Bucky Irvin is popping as one of the most popular guys along with Pollard. So that's the way I kind of see it. I'm not so interested in Austin Eckler myself. He can get there. I'll sleep easy tonight if he gets there and I don't have him. Same thing with Antonio Gibson, same value spot. I'm not playing Javonte Williams. I'm not playing Najee Harris. That dude's just officially a bum. Both those guys, I'm off those guys. So I think Jacobs sneaky, Kamara sneaky, Barkley and Henry up top, Pollard and Irvin in that mid-range for value, along with Bijan Robinson and Gibbs. I'll lean Gibbs over Montgomery. Sticks, running backs. I mentioned the guys I like. I'm assuming you're on most of these guys. Where are you at running back? Who you got in your main lineups? Talk about it.
Yeah, main lineup right now has Bijan and Austin Eckler in tournaments. I know you're not really super into Eckler. I get it. I just look at him as he is priced like a mid-tier wide receiver, and he'll probably return results like a mid-tier wide receiver in the receiving game. And then you add, I don't know. I think I projected him for 9 carries. So if he breaks one for 30, 40 yards and has 4 catches for 42 yards, that's a fantastic day at that price. Also, you got to tell yourself the game script story. I do think Baltimore continues to score at will. Washington has to pass. Eckler's going to be a big part of that. The coverage scheme for Baltimore should offer a lot in the flats too. So yeah, I'm in on Austin Eckler. I feel like the only way he does not succeed, obviously this is football, knock on wood, injuries and stuff like that are certainly a path to failure. The only way he doesn't succeed is if Baltimore doesn't score a lot of points. And they have the highest implied team total, 29 points flat right now. I'm trusting Vegas. I trust what I see in Baltimore that they're going to continue to score like crazy. So I do love Austin Eckler.
Sticks, let me stop you for a second on Eckler. I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because this is solely about me because I love betting props. Eckler's receiving prop, you can get it as low as 20.5 up to 24.5, at DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm seeing MGM maybe a little bit lower. What do you have Eckler coming in as receiving yards? Do you see him shooting over 30, 40 yards, or is it just a lot of dump offs? Where do you see him working into this? Because I might want to bet it if you're really loving his receptions. Reception prop sitting at 2.5 with heavy juice on the over, minus 185 from what I'm seeing here. So what are you seeing from him?
Yeah, I have him projected for 3.28 receptions. So yeah, we'd certainly lean on the over there, but we're not going to lay minus 185. That's insane. Receiving yards is 24.8. So I think it's pretty close to the market, but also when we're projecting, it's more of a baseline. It's not projecting ceilings. So if this game does go crazy and Baltimore scores at will, obviously Austin Eckler is going to get a big boost up. Interested to see how many routes Jeremy McNichols runs. I think he's a viable pass catcher too. But when it's third down, Austin Eckler is going to be on the field. So I would lean the over on the receiving yards. I think that's fair if you can get it closer to minus 120. Some other running backs, though, that you didn't mention, like there's a lot of good ones. Bijan Robinson, honestly, I think is going to be in every single lineup that I have. I'm okay with just doing it. Every single running back has gotten right against Carolina. Atlanta's got a very good offensive line. He's going to have 3 to 4 catches. 6,600. I cannot think of one reason why I wouldn't play him. Chuba is going to be a fade for me, but someone that should be in a really good spot and there is no ownership at all is Josh Jacobs at 6,700. If you're like not into the Bijan thing, having the balls to just pivot to Josh Jacobs, who doesn't really leave the field, should have 18 plus touches and a good game script at home. I love that. And then one other guy, it's something about his price tag that still rubs me the wrong way, but J.K. Dobbins with no Gus Edwards, he's going to get 20 touches. Coming after the bye, maybe we see a little bit more Kamani Vidal. I guess he hasn't even dressed for a game yet, so we probably have to see some of them, but J.K. Dobbins is a pretty good price as a pivot off of Tony Pollard chalk.
Okay. Ghost running backs, man. I know it's not Thanksgiving, but Derrick Henry in a good spot. Saquon under-owned as well. Up top, down low, middle. Who do you got running back?
We're getting close to Canadian Thanksgiving, if that matters to you, Ghost.
Yeah, I was just about to say Happy Canadian Thanksgiving. It is tomorrow.
It is. Shit.
Derrick Henry.
Canadians out there.
Time, bro.
I much prefer the timing of American Thanksgiving, to be honest, and the football slate's way better, but it's a tough stretch for us going here all the way till the holidays in December. But happy Canadian Thanksgiving, all the Canadians out there. Derrick Henry up top. Everyone knows that I can't go a single show without mentioning at least one narrative there. You got to have fun with what we do here. So Derrick Henry looking to be the first running back since LT to score in the first 6 weeks of a season. So if you want to have a little fun with it there, Derrick Henry is definitely getting in the box today. Alvin Kamara is really enticing, and we talked about Rattler, and I mentioned, one of the so-called weaknesses that coaches were saying with his game in college was that he has television for his number one wide receiver, and we mentioned how that bodes well for Chris Olave. At the same time, they also mentioned his arm strength, right? Like with that being a concern, Alvin Kamara is, you can make the case that he's their number one option in the running game, very obviously, but he's also their number one option in the passing game too, right? So with nobody playing Kamara there, if you're starting with Spencer Rattler at 4K, and again, no one's playing him, so it's definitely enticing. Talked a lot about Josh Jacobs. I'm actually on the other side of that game. I like James Conner at 6,800 with the weather situation, and we talked about running backs not leaving the field. James Conner still doing it. I want to say this late into his career. It's not like he's a 40-year-old running back, but still at 6,800 there, I'm expecting a lot of carries for both him and Josh Jacobs. So an excellent pivot to the Bijan chalk. Stix kind of stole my thunder a little bit with J.K. Dobbins. I was hoping that you wouldn't get through all your running backs without mentioning J.K. Dobbins, because I did want to mention him. But yeah, no Gus Bus for the Chargers this week, which was really strange coming off a bye too. So
IR, I believe he's on IR. Yeah,
IR out minimum 4 games, and the thing with J.K. Dobbins is that he was hot out of the gate in his first 2 games, and he kind of slowed down, and people were like, "Oh man, maybe the injuries are catching up to him." He had brutal matchups in weeks 3 and 4, man. So I'm not getting off the J.K. Dobbins train here, and in a game that they should be able to control the tempo pretty well. Excellent pivot to Tony Pollard chalk at 6K, who I'm playing none of, by the way, in case that wasn't going to be clear enough with how long I'm talking about J.K. Dobbins. And this next guy, Rico Dowdle, getting good exposure to that game again. Everyone's going to the pass game, but the one and only way that Dallas will be able to win this game at home is to keep Jared Goff and that offense off the field. So with Ezekiel Elliott, way past the days of getting 25 touches and 100 yards and 2 TDs. Rico Dowdle coming off a 20 carry game last week. He's really enticing. In the passing game too, he'll be able to get it done. What really sucks is that if he does get taken off the field for Zeke in the red zone, but that wasn't happening early on in the season either, right? So I do like how dynamic he is, and at 5,900, another piece to a very, very enticing game. Bucky Irving chalk is, that's just self-explanatory at this point. You can't build any cash game lineups without Bucky Irving. if you want to play him in tournaments, I definitely can't fault you there with the price point. That's really attractive. But another punt play that I did want to mention, because we're talking about Austin Eckler, for both of you guys, Jeremy McNichols at 4,500. Even with Brian Robinson active last week, he was super banged up, and Washington did get up early in that game. Jeremy McNichols was essentially that first and second down, early down back for Washington, right? So if you're expecting Austin Eckler to be more of a scat back in this one, third down type role where he's going to be on there, he's going to be in the red zone, he's going to be catching passes for Jaden Daniels on third and short. I think that's more of a likely scenario, where that if Washington is in this one and that they want to keep Lamar Jackson and that offense off of the field, Jeremy McNichols should be, looking at least 10 to 12 carries in this one, I'm hoping. And at 4,500, you don't need all that much, right? Hoping for a couple of routes, maybe a catch or two. I don't want to get too greedy with it and say that he's going to go 5 for 50, but at 4,500, that's definitely enticing.
All right, man. A lot of running backs to choose from. We'll be in our expert chat all the way leading to lock. Make sure you go check out prop models, projections, lineup optimizer, articles, playbooks. I got Stix's playbook open right now, building lineups while Ghost is running through his running backs. Got a nice little build going right now with a lot of guys that you guys are mentioning. Let's slide a wide receiver. I made probably 10 lineups already, a little bit more. Every single lineup has CeeDee Lamb, every single one. I don't really give a fuck. He's just going to lock in. If he fails, gets hurt, whatever happens, I'll be okay. Not going to be upset with that decision. Amon-Ra in a great spot. I'm either building CD with Amon-Ra or CD with Jameson Williams, like them both, or adding a running back, Gibbs or Montgomery. My favorite game stack. I don't see a way it fails. In a dome, high over-under, two great offenses, one bad defense, and one defense who can only stop the run, and their secondary is a little bit weak in Detroit. Dallas just has problems all over. So CeeDee Lamb locked. Amon-Ra firmly in play. Got a ton of builds with that. London, look, he's going to be one of the highest owned wide receivers. I think you can easily pivot off him with either Bijan, who's also going to be popular, but you can go Bijan. I know David Jones loves Darnell Mooney. I would probably prefer Kyle Pitts as a fade to London. Godwin's in a great spot as well. Zay Flowers in a good spot. I think some people might be sleeping on Deontay Johnson. If he's fully healthy, he's in a good spot. Like I said, David likes Darnell Mooney. I'm not as high on him as he is. I still think everybody's kind of forgetting the guy that won us a bunch of money a couple of weeks back in both DFS and the prop market, and that's Xavier Legette. I think he's getting overlooked. He's at a bad price point at 4,900, so a lot of people are going to go down or up from that spot. So I like Legette a lot. If I'm not playing some Deontay Johnson, I'm going to Legette. I'm off Green Bay. They're too popular for me. I just think there's too many mouths to feed with Kraft taking targets away. You got Dobbs back, Wicks involved. So I'm not going to Green here. So I'm off Green Bay Reed here. So I'm off Green Bay in its entirety. I'm not playing any of these guys. I prefer Josh Jacobs or maybe just running Love if you want. I do think Zay Flowers in play, and I do think nobody's going to play Amari Cooper at his price tag at $6K. I'm not playing Watson in DFS much, but Cooper I think is safer for me because he's just supremely underowned. He's getting there most weeks regardless, and then if things break his way, I think he's in a really good spot. Tennessee receivers, Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins. I wouldn't play both in a lineup, but individually, I think they're good pivots. Slightly concerned with George Pickens because he's just moronic. Like he's just doing dumb shit all over the field all the time. So I think he can get there at 5,900. I don't think Las Vegas can score. I don't think it's going to be a back and forth game. So I don't think you need Pickens, but I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a long one and finds a way over 100 yards, and maybe Las Vegas stays in this game a little bit longer. I haven't played Tank Dell once the entire year. I think he's GPP capable of kind of not breaking the slate, but getting you there in that 6,200 range. Not many people are mentioning A.J. Brown. I do think he's very under-owned on the slate. I can see him coming back and having a great game as well. I'm not going super cheap. Jalen Polk, if you see, what we got going on bets, I'm locked into Jalen Polk early. Stix texted me earlier this week. He said he's the guy to go to. The prop was too low. I hammered it all week long. At 3,600, I think he's the best value play. I'm not really going to Vegas with this Trey Tucker thing. We caught lightning in the bottle one time. I respect Pittsburgh's D too much to go there. And, that's pretty much it for me. Those are the guys I'm focused on. If Flacco somehow is starting, I don't mind Downs and Pittman, but with Richardson, I'm not going Downs and Pittman. So that's pretty much the player pool for me at wide receiver. Stix, my question to you, man. Detroit, we like it. How much do you like Jameson Williams, or are you just pivoting and locking in, Amon-Ra, not really thinking twice about it? And I know David kind of likes Laporta a bit for GPPs, but tell me, Flacco is starting for Indy. So, maybe give them some shots. I'll probably slide Pittman back into my season-long league now. I had him on the bench for Shakir. But with Flacco going, man, I do think that makes some sense to go, play some Indianapolis Colts receivers here. But Stix, what do you think?
Yeah, for the Detroit, I think what you said is probably what I'm doing, just locking in CD. I have a little bit of interest in Jameson Williams, but Detroit spreads it out so much. I feel like you can get your exposure to Detroit just by playing a ton of CeeDee Lamb or like Ferguson, or I'm not really super interested in Tolbert. CeeDee Lamb's a core play for me with Bijan Robinson. I hope Detroit scores a ton and they spread it out a ton so no one breaks the slate on their side of things, but CeeDee Lamb is going to get 15-plus targets today. So CeeDee Lamb's my guy, and I don't really want to play roulette with which guy from Detroit goes off. It is a fair price for Jameson Williams. He certainly has slate-breaking ability with his, 80-yard touchdown upside, but I don't know. Amon-Ra is going to be a guy for me in cash. He is in the cash core, and in GPPs, I'm just not going to play really any Detroit. Maybe Gibbs, but again, there's so much Montgomery out there too.
Anybody else you like, Stix, or no?
I mean, I love Chris Olave.
Okay.
I really like Terry McLaurin. I'm okay with Zay Flowers. I love Leggett, man. I'm with you. I got him projected for almost 4.5 catches at 4,900. Atlanta has one of the highest team totals on the slate, 26 points. I think they score like crazy. Getting exposure to someone like Deontay Johnson or Xavier Leggett makes a ton of sense. Deontay, I don't know. I just don't like this guy, and he continues to put up numbers damn near every single week. But Leggett at 4,900, I believe in his talent. I'm playing Spencer Rattler. I might as well play his college wide receiver one, Xavier Leggett. This guy's going to get some jet sweeps too. Like you said, we need a little bit of salary relief if we're paying up for CeeDee Lamb and one of these expensive running backs. To me, I really want that back and forth in the Atlanta-Carolina game, telling myself that Carolina's chasing points early. Xavier Leggett's probably as low as I would go. I do have interest in Michael Wilson. If the weather in Green Bay is clear, I think Marvin Harrison at 2% ownership is in one of the best matchups with or without Jair Alexander playing. The coverage scheme for Green Bay fits up so well, they're not going to double Marvin Harrison like that. If that game was clear weather, I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a core play for me in GPPs, but it's just not there. So one guy I want to talk about, Ghost kind of said it too. I don't think we need to game stack Tampa Bay, New Orleans. I don't have an interest in paying 6,900 for Chris Godwin. That totals at 42 points. I don't have it going much higher than that, if at all. I would probably lean the under in that game. I'm playing Rattler for the value. I think this is damn near a peak price for Chris Godwin. Sure, it's a great matchup on the inside. They'll see a lot of Volontae Taylor. I just don't think Tampa Bay needs to chuck it 35 times and get Chris Godwin a ceiling game. I think Chris Godwin's ceiling in this game is right around 18 points at 6,900. The field can have that. I would much rather go down to someone like Terry McLaurin or Zay Flowers in a game that I know will go back and forth. So Terry McLaurin is probably my guy there.
All right, man. Ghost, up to you, man. I got some bets on Jalen Tolbert. He hasn't been mentioned yet. I bet Jake Ferguson. I know you're a Cowboys guy here. Talk about your wide receivers. Are you locking CeeDee Lamb in all your lineups? Are you pivoting to some other guys? Anybody that we didn't mention? Go right ahead, man. It's your time.
Yeah. Do we want to mention anything from Houston? We do have a question on Tank Dell.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's safe, limited upside. And then Sia, if you are listening. Oh, Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is in the cash core. Sorry. I'll pass it over to you, Ghost. But Sia, or if anybody's out there, can you please send us inactives, especially for Green Bay, whenever you get a chance?
I'm going Amon-Ra over CD at the top of the pricing grid. Stix is not going to I don't take after take here because we're going to disagree on a lot for the first time in years. But I'm going Amon-Ra over CD at the top. Jalen Tolbert just stretches the field, man. And for me, I'm looking for the solution to who's going to break the slate on the Detroit side of things. And it could very well be that nobody does, right? Like, they can score 5 touchdowns today, and it could be one for each of Gibbs, Montgomery, each get one. Amon-Ra maybe gets one. Laporta could get in the box. Jameson Williams could catch 2 passes, and one of them could be an 80-yard TD. Like, it's just, you're all over the place with stacking this Detroit offense. But for me, it's going to be Amon-Ra at the top of the pricing grid. And like Stix, I am playing him in cash. He will be my pay up. Diggs versus Tank Dell. Moving down the pricing grid here, especially because people are asking about Tank Dell and Houston in the comments. But for me, it's whenever anybody is playing New England, it's getting away from Christian Gonzalez as much as possible, right? Like, if people don't know who Christian Gonzalez is, that's one of the matchups that I immediately write down, because whoever's lining up on Christian Gonzalez is damn near immediately out of my player pool. He will go toe-to-toe with the best wide receivers in the league, and it's definitely not one that I want to pick on. That being said, both Diggs and Tank Dell will get shares of Christian Gonzalez on the outside. Diggs will likely get more of him, though. So for me, when I'm looking at this Houston offense, the 3-headed monster of Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell. Nico now on IR. Unfortunately, Stix, our boy, is down for 4 weeks. They need to get Tank Dell going, right? Like, that's the thing, is that it's kind of that internal battle now where it's, do you want to play to Stephon Diggs and everything that people always say about him, and that, maybe he's a diva, he demands targets, he gets into situations with his quarterbacks, and everyone saw the little, I don't even want to say altercation, but the kind of glare that he was giving Josh Allen when they did, what I mean? It's always about when you have Stephon Diggs sideline. It's, do you want to cater to Stephon Diggs, or do you want to get, probably your second best wide receiver going there? I do think Tank Dell has bigger upside than Stephon Diggs in this matchup. And I think that's going to be more of a priority for CJ Stroud, especially with what they did together last year. I will take Tank Dell over Diggs in terms of our price point. Moving down the pricing grid, I know Stix is completely off Godwin, and usually I don't see much of a ceiling there, but this is a matchup for him that he'll likely be running a 100% snap rate right out of the slot, and that's as good of a matchup as it gets on the entire slate. So for me, the quiet injury that I do want to highlight is that Trey Palmer's out for Tampa Bay, and they're off. Jalen McMillan is flying back in, right? So Jalen McMillan going back outside on one sideline, Mike Evans flanking the other. I don't think Chris Godwin leaves a slot here, and they're still going to have to move the football. And again, it comes back to the notion that if you think New Orleans stays in this game, Tampa is going to have to throw the ball a half decent amount. Are they going to give Bucky 25 carries in this game with virtually nobody playing behind him? Like, these are all things that nobody knows until the game unfolds, right? What I do know is that Chris Godwin is 6,900 in PPR formats. It's arguably the safest floor that you could get. Very Keenan Allen-esque for the last couple of years, where, in cash games you had 6,500 Keenan Allen. It was automatic play because he was going 6, 7, 8 catches for 80 yards. You're locking him in. So for me there, if Chris Godwin does find a way to get into the box, let alone the 3.100-yard reception bonus on DraftKings, I landed on the notion that Chris Godwin outscores Drake London. And just like Stix said, that, with Chris Godwin having, maybe 15 to 18 points there, the field could have that. That's what I'm hoping for Drake London, is that if everyone's playing Drake London in a game that I don't know if Carolina's going to be able to keep pace in that one, just like they're saying that, is Tampa Bay going to have to throw the football all that much? Is Atlanta going to have to throw the football all that much? Like, that's where, for me, this overwhelming chalk on Drake London, that's one that I'm completely off of. And I'm going Chris Godwin And that would be my take there, is that Chris Godwin outscores Drake London. Zay Flowers and Terry McLaurin is where I'm at, even more so than Chris Godwin, right in that range, right below them. I need pieces to that game. I unfortunately do not have as much Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels as much as I want to. But I want both alpha wide receivers there. I can't play Mark Andrews until I see a sign of life. And I know that, it's always you want to be there before the field gets there. But again, for me, Zay Flowers is the guy that I do want. I do see a lot of people going way down the pricing grid towards Rashad Bateman. I just don't see it. That for me is a game log chase where, he had decent amount of targets last week. I'm pretty sure he had more targets last week than he did for the entire season. Like, that was just a one-off game for me where I'm not chasing, Bateman value there. I want alpha wide receivers in this game. McLaurin, Zay Flowers is the easiest way to do that. Talked about Jameson Williams and that Detroit offense. If you're looking for big playability in tournaments, the ownership's likely going to be lowest on Jameson Williams out of the, I guess you could call it a core 5 of the Detroit Lions offense there. So super enticing matchup for him as well. The Darnell Mooney situation, look, again, I'm kind of fading the Atlanta passing attack just because I don't know if Carolina's going to be able to keep pace there, right? So I much rather just play Bijan, like what Stix said. Jalen Tolbert, you asked for it. Jay, ask and you shall receive. Jalen Tolbert's going to be my top exposure to any wide receiver on the entire slate.
Nice.
Dallas going to be chasing points. I do think Dak leads the slate in passing attempts in this one. And it's very, very interesting the builds that you get by stacking Dallas without CeeDee Lamb. And I know when you say that out loud, it sounds absolutely crazy. Probably even crazier than when it first entered your mind, but the build is super enticing to go Dak with Jake Ferguson and Jalen Tolbert or Rico Dowdle. Pretty much pick 2 out of the 3. You hope that CD, has his 15 to 20 points, and at 8,600, it's not going to get you there, right? Like, you need a slate breaking performance from CD at 8,600. I'd much rather take the upside there with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I do think that he has a better chance than CD Lamb to lead the slate in scoring. Taking Tolbert and Jake Ferguson as my number 1 stacking options with Dak, Rico Dowdle as well. Do not be afraid to stack a running back with your quarterback in the right situations. My number 1 punt play with Drake May starting is going to be Jalen Polk. So I know that bodes well for your props.
All
Jay,
my
I did
props
not.
are hitting, bro.
I did not know that you ended up getting that, because I also bet it as well. I think I bet it on like Wednesday or something, and immediately went to go see what Jalen Polk's receiving prop was at. The main thing that I do want to highlight, look, at 3,600, you don't need much. So don't freak out if he doesn't go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, paying $3,600 for a wide receiver. Same thing with, the Trey Tuckers and the DJ Turners. And, we talk about Jalen McMillan. I can't go a single video without talking about Jalen McMillan, because that's my boy. But again, you're paying virtually nothing for a $3,600 wide receiver to allow your alpha dogs and the rest of your lineup to do what they do, right? You're not playing Jalen Polk, Trey Turner, any one of the guys that I just mentioned to, play them for the sake of playing them. You're playing them so that the Amon-Ra's and the CDs go absolutely bonkers in your lineup, right? So the main thing that I do want to highlight is that last week Jalen Polk was on the field for every single one of the offensive snaps that the Patriots ran. And that for me is what I'm looking for with these punt plays. Yes, we're looking for big playability. We're not looking for floors. We're not looking for anything else. You're not going to find a safe floor with a $3,600 wide receiver on DraftKings. You need someone that has upside. And before you even look at, any stat that you want to pull out, the main thing is you're going to see the field. Jalen Polk didn't lead the field last week. And I think the New England offense is going to take a turn here with Drake May under center. Mentioning Drake May, I'm not playing him in DFS. I want nothing to do with the New England offense. But I do want to mention 2 things that we did forget to mention about, and that's Antonio Gibson. We did not mention him in the running back situation. So I don't know if there were any questions about Antonio Gibson, but maybe we could revisit that. And the other thing, Jay, if you want to bet it with me, I did bet it, is Drake May's rushing prop. I got it at 25.5. I don't know what it's at now. I did see it move up a little bit, but it shouldn't be anything overwhelming. look, he's not the most athletic guy. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not prime Michael Vick or anything like that. But he does have a sneaky rushing ability to be able to make plays and extend plays. And with that offensive line being one of, if not the worst in the entire league, Will Anderson's coming off the edge there. Drake May's going to be running for his life a couple times. I do see him being able to scramble and extend drives for the New England Patriots today.
I like all of that. I'm going to be cashing a lot of props, like you said. Might hop on that May with you. Building lineups, look, we got to slide in some tight ends. Tight ends are pretty much flopped every single week besides Tucker Kraft. Last week, I'm not playing Tucker Kraft. I'm not paying up for tight ends for the most part. If I do pay up on either site, it's Ferguson number 1. I'm not going to Bowers. I'm not going to McBride. Probably don't get to Laporta much. Not going to Goddard with everybody back. Not playing Tucker Kraft at 4,800. I'm not playing roulette with Likely at 4,500. For me, it's Ferguson up top if I'm paying up. If you want mid-range, low-owned, pivots off a chalky Bijan or a chalky Drake London, I think Kyle Pitts is great. Freiermuth is okay at 4,300. I'm not messing with Njoku or Schultz. Said I'm not messing with Mark Andrews. Hunter Henry, I'm playing him in season long, but I'm not getting there really in DFS purposes. This is where I do think it gets interesting. I know Stix is going to talk about Ertz. I'll let him have that. I think Cade Otton is a good pivot off of Irving, or you can play him with Irving if you're playing Rattler and you're trying to get some shares of that game. But one thing I've been building as of late while you guys have been talking, it doesn't get much cheaper than this core. I know it sounds gross, but if you go Rattler, Bucky Irvin with Jawan Johnson at 3,100, it's pretty much play anybody else you want. You know, Jawan Johnson got 5 targets last week, caught all 5 of them. Didn't get in the end zone because Foster Moreau got in the end zone playing Kansas City. This should be a nice matchup for him. Look, the Tampa Bay defense letting up 258 yards, receiving a game. You know, they're playing from behind. You're probably playing Rattler in a lineup with Jawan Johnson. And if you don't want to take the risk on Olave, you don't want to play that mid-range with Shaheed, I think Jawan Johnson is a very good play actually at 3,100. Like, you're paying for Rattler and Johnson and Bucky Irving. You're getting 3 guys at a total of like 12.5. And then you can go out there and stack your wide receivers, your other running backs, your defense, whatever the case may be. So I think Johnson's a good play as well. I wouldn't go all in on him, but I do think he makes sense as a nice landing spot. Ferguson, the top dog. Again, not playing anybody else, not messing with McBride. He can get there, of course, but I'm not going there. And no other cheapy guys that I really like. So that's the player pool for me. I was going to add one thing too. Like, even though that I'm on Jalen Polk and taking him in props and got him in some DFS items, still think the Houston defense is in play as well. We'll talk about these for a second, but like, just know the context of everything. If something's good in a prop market, doesn't mean you lock them into your lineup. Even though I'm laddering them, it's a different value, different play there. So, Stix, I know I mentioned most of the tight ends. You can talk up Ertz. You can talk up your favorite guys here. It's a narrow player pool for me, and I'm assuming it's the same for you at tight end.
It is Kyle Pitts in tournaments and Zach Ertz in cash. I think Zach has a safe floor, similar to how I feel about Chris Godwin. I don't think there's a ceiling, so I do not want to do that in tournaments. Same reason. The coverage is okay for Kyle Pitts. I don't think there's anybody, even if they double team from Carolina, who's active today for them that could stop Kyle Pitts. The issue is the volume. Do they throw him the ball? But this is kind of the same situation that we like Dallas Goedert against the Saints. All right, there's a ton of ownership on the Atlanta Falcons. It's Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Bijan Robinson have a ton of ownership. They have a very high implied team total. Give me one of the more talented players with red zone upside on this offense with no ownership, and that's Kyle Pitts. So same reason I like Goddard. Kyle Pitts is my GPP tight end. And yeah, Zach Ertz. I guess you could play Cade Otton in cash. His ownership's getting up there pretty high, but I'd rather have some sort of pass catcher for Washington in cash, and that is going to be Zach Ertz. Other than that, Ferguson makes a ton of sense, right? I'll never talk you off him. Pretty much the chalk tight end has seemed to go crazy every single week. Outside of the week we did play Dallas Goedert at like 1% ownership. So probably having Jake Ferguson makes a lot of sense, especially in cash, but Pitts and Ertz for me.
Ghost, anybody that we didn't add, it's a tight tight end player pool for me. And same thing for Stix. Anybody you like?
Ferguson, Laporta are like 75, if not 80% of my exposure. And as punts, I went Hunter Henry and Jatavian Sanders.
Okay. Defenses goes while we're at it. You got some decent ones up top. I think Texans firmly in play for me. Steelers firmly in play for me. If you got the money, go out there and spend. I was on Tennessee a lot. Flacco kind of changes a little bit for me. So I do still have a ton of Tennessee. Chargers in play in that mid range, and if I'm going all the way down, probably just taking a shot on New England, hoping for some bad weather, hoping the injuries are kind of caught up to the Texans. So if I'm punting all the way down, it's New England mid range. It's the Titans. If I got salary, I'm going Chargers, Steelers, and Texans. The only one I'll mention too, the Browns at 2,600. I do think there's some value there with the Browns. Ghost, what do you like at D?
Bucks for cash, which is why Spencer Rattler is, not, I don't know if it's tied to his ownership or what, but I'm seeing the Bucks, the ridiculous ownership. So you kind of have to do that in cash just in case anything goes colossally wrong there. But I do like the Browns at the same price point in tournaments. A little bit higher up, I like Indy on the road. And
say the best one, Ghost.
No, I'll leave it for you because I know we're both gonna say it. Chargers and Broncos in that like upper mid range. I mean, look, it's I like the Chargers J.K. Dobbins pairing a lot. I have this like weird, I don't even want to call it an obsession. It's just it looks aesthetically pleasing when you end up having your last running back in there correlated with the defense that you play. And J.K. Dobbins is a guy that I'm using a ton in tournaments. So J.K. Dobbins with Chargers D is something that I landed on a lot.
Jaguars suck. Stix, who do you got?
This one's easy. They're hiding in plain sight right in the middle of salary, averaging the most DraftKings fantasy points per game at home against a very volatile quarterback. The Green Bay Packers. Are we kidding me? They just got your ear back too. What are we doing? 1% owned Packers. 30% of the field in tournaments are going to play the Titans and the Bucks. Like, find $300 extra.
Go
play the Packers.
Packers with Josh Jacobs is really interesting. Dobbins with Chargers is really interesting.
The Packers defense is Devontae Wyatt's the only guy that's out. They are incredibly healthy.
Yeah. Let me ask one question, Stix. GPP lineup, can you play Rattler and the Bucks together?
No. Fuck no. You can't. No.
No shot?
No. If he's
4K?
Please don't do that.
If he throws a touchdown, then you're like literally canceling yourself out. Your lineup doesn't grow if he throws a touchdown. It just sits there. Like, no.
I'm asking. I'm not doing it.
You got to hope, instead of for 4 TDs, you got to hope for 4 pick sixes.
Yeah. It's like, hitting arm day, but never doing legs. That's what you're doing with the lineup.
Yeah. Please don't do that.
All right, Stix. How do we do this finale here? What are we doing? Picking players?
Favorite players, we can go a max of, let's go, because DJ's not here, we'll make the rules. 1 upper tier, 1 value. Quarterbacks. I will start upper tier. I'm going to go with Dak. Value. Deshaun, Spencer Rattler.
Can I go the same, or since you picked those 2 guys, I have to pick 2 different guys?
You can go the same. I mean, we don't want to. I think part of
same. Yeah, I'm with the same too. So it's Dak and Rattler. That's where I'm at with those 2. Ghost, what do you got?
You can't tell people to play everybody, then it's confusing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cheat, but too bad DJ's not here, so no rules of clock. I'm going Dak. I'm taking 2 mid-range guys, Dak and Baker.
Okay. Running back Stix, what do you got?
Bijan. And I guess Bijan, can I call him a value?
Yeah, go.
He's a top value on our model, so I'm gonna go with Bijan.
There you go.
And Josh. Give me Derrick Henry. I love the spot for Derrick Henry. I fear I don't have enough of them.
If we're going up top, I'll go Saquon up top, slightly ahead of Henry, catching some balls, probably putting up more points, maybe. And then down low, I'm just gonna go with the chalk here, Bucky Irving. It just makes too much sense. 5,400. They're gonna put up points here. That's where I'll go. Ghost, what do you got?
Jahmyr Gibbs and
Like it.
I really want to take Rico Dowdle. That's my dog. But no, Jahmyr
No.
Gibbs and J.K. Dobbins.
All right, Stix wide receiver, lock button Lamb. I'm assuming, but you got the call.
Lock button Lamb, and then give me. I'll let you take Leggett. Give me Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, Leggett, Lamb for me. Ghost, you going poke as your Valley guy? What are you doing here?
Lock button ARSB. Stix are gonna have a beer bet for that one. Lock button ARSB and
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Jalen Tolbert. Yeah, you're kind of hoping that you lose that one now too, don't you?
Yeah. Give me a cold one.
Tight end Stix, what do you got?
Kyle Pitts and Kyle Pitts.
I'm gonna go Fergie up top, Ferguson up top, and I'm gonna go Jawan Johnson catches a touchdown at 3,100, paired with Rattler as the value guy. Ghost?
Jake Ferguson, Hunter Henry.
Okay. Defenses, do we do defenses, Stick? Or do we skip defenses? Because
No, we can do it. I think Cash should go with the Titans for me. Joe Flacco
does anything change with Flacco there? Because I have a lot of Titans right now.
I think it turns me off a little bit. I'd rather have Anthony Richardson, his turnover proneness, but it's still Joe Flacco. Like, come on. This dude's not a world beater.
Okay.
So,
right.
Yeah, Titans defense coming off a bye, super healthy at home. That defensive line is mean. The Bears offense looks like it's the greatest thing in the NFL right now, and they played the Titans, and the Titans just shut them down. So, play the Titans, but tournaments, if no one's going to play the Packers, I am not going to play a 30% on defense in tournaments, so give me the Packers.
All right, up top, it's either Pittsburgh or Texans for me. I guess I'll go Pitt if you got that money. For value though, I'm gonna lean just to be different, kind of wonky. Let's go with the disgruntled Philly offense, and let's go Browns for value. 2,600, just very low own. Pivot off some of this chalk D's. I'm playing mostly Titans, just putting it out there, Titans and the Patriots, but I think for GPPs, the Browns are in play. Ghost?
Bucks and Chargers.
Bucks and Chargers. I think that's it. 6. You want to get us out of here? We're on time. 12 o'clock.
Right on time. That's lovely. We just did. We kicked DJ out this week, and we actually start at 11 o'clock too, which is wild. How about that?
Yeah.
No, if you got any last minute questions, we'll keep it open for 5-10 seconds, and then otherwise,
ask any questions. Questions. If you're there, I'll answer this one. Judy, Cooper, Slayton. I'm starting Slayton. All right, I would go Slayton and Cooper. That's the way to go here. If anybody else has any questions, Josh Allen or Dak, I'd lean Dak as well. We like Dak a bunch. Prop models up. Projections are up. Go to windailysports.com. We got a ton of articles. Stix's playbook. I just built a lineup pretty much picking out of the 20 names he's listed. So go out there. Got articles up. You got NBA starting. I don't know when, but I'm assuming it's soon, Ghost. They still play ball. And then you got NHL, man. So we got models up for everything. Got bets up for every sport. And Stix, are the Mets going to beat the Dodgers? That's my question to you. You better say yes.
No, I think the Dodgers. No? I think the Dodgers finally take it. They paid enough money for this roster, and they seem to be jiving pretty well.
Yeah, I think whoever wins the NL takes it all. I think the Yankees are kind of suspect, and the Guardians, they never win. So for me, it's whoever takes it down.
Darius Slayton is way too cheap on FanDuel.
Dak. Let me switch apps here.
You got to play Bucky.
Okay. Yeah, Dak. I was going to say Dak, Bucky, Slayton were the first 3 names that I clicked there.
D-Hop is
you-
pretty cheap at 5,800. If you want to throw that out there.
No, I'll say I'll give a core
Derrick
four
Henry?
like what we used to do.
Ferg?
Ferg, Dak, Slayton, Bucky. I'd
Derrick Henry's
enjoy
affordable.
I'd enjoy playing 5 studs because FanDuel didn't know how to price people this week. So that's what you got to do.
There it
Good luck,
is, man.
everybody.
We're out of here. Good luck, everybody. We're going to be cashing a lot of bets, winning some lineups. Make sure you hop in our expert chat. If any questions, will be around till 1 o'clock. And then we are out, man. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.